There are a lot of reasons to look forward to driving a Rolls-Royce. Despite their unstable financial past and a few models with questionable electrical systems, these days their production of high-end cars can almost be admired as an art form. And this is the latest incarnation of that art, the Dawn. The open top, or drop head as they like to call it, isn't simply a convertible version of the Wraith. It has 80% new sheet metal and its own style, and an almost unbelievable talent for this class of car. It can actually fit two adults in proper comfort in the back, as opposed to opting for the usual cramped rear seats. We attended the world launch in the Western Cape recently and were given an extremely limited time with the car. Still, it was enough to make us feel like 11 million rand, which, as long as the exchange rate holds, is about the same amount as you'd pay for one of these. Being the world's best luxury brand means that compromise doesn't really exist in their corporate guidebook, even when designing this kind of car. Generally speaking, a convertible means compromise. Chop off the roof, the chassis becomes less rigid, and then all the vibrations and the scuttle shake become visibly obvious, particularly through the A-pillar. When it comes to the Dawn, that just means that Rolls-Royce have had to design the most rigid four-seater convertible in the world. And like the proverbial upper lip, this chassis is stiff. Not a single vibration or shake could be seen or felt on our 200-kilometer round trip, just solid, smooth cruising. Even at the price, overcoming the physics of a wobbly, roofless chassis is massively impressive. Then there's the other side of convertible driving. One of the many things that Rolls-Royce have concentrated on in this car is the noise inside the cabin, or rather, the lack of noise. And they say because of the way that the folding fabric roof has been designed, this car is as quiet as the hard-topped Wraith. Now, I don't have equipment to measure the actual noise, but I will say that at the moment, we are doing 90 kilometers an hour. With the roof down, it's not completely silent, obviously, but the ratio between speech volume and road speed is better than any other convertible I've driven. And with the roof up, this car is incredibly quiet, not just for a drophead, but for any car. Of course, a Rolls-Royce's engineering is part of its brilliance, but it's almost certainly not part of its attraction. People don't gawk and stare and salivate after a Rolls-Royce because of its chassis rigidity. They do it, for starters, because of its phenomenal presence. One of the key things in the design of the Dawn was that it would look as good with the roof up as it does with it down. And it does. No matter what state it's in, the Dawn is as sexy as it is commanding, with an absolutely regal air of sophistication. The interior is just as sophisticated, with top comfort and finishes. The detail is stupendous, and so is the craftsmanship. But it's not all perfect. For starters, a lot of the tech will be instantly familiar to anyone who's driven a BMW, and the controllers have an almost strange mix of shapes and positioning, which gives the setup a feeling of not being the most modern. But then again, this is a Rolls-Royce, and they do have over 100 years of tradition to respect. Whatever concerns one might have about the looks or the interior kind of melt away once you're on the move. Driving a Rolls-Royce is a special thing, not just because it's a rarity or because it's as expensive as it is, or in the case of the Dawn, because it has a 420 kilowatt V12 motor, but because no matter what Rolls you drive, if it's an old one or a new one, they all have an incomparable feel to them. It's like you're driving, but you're not driving. It's completely effortless and unfussed and utterly smooth. You could be driving across a field of cricket balls set in concrete, but it would feel as though you're riding a hovercraft across a vast expanse of glass. It's almost indescribably good. Rolls-Royce will say that this is still an involving drive, but it really isn't. At 2.5 tons, the Dawn feels its weight in the corners, although that V12 does a superb job of shifting it forward with almost no effort at all. The Dawn is as spectacular as you'd expect a Rolls-Royce to be. It's taken the drop-top recipe, completely deleted the downsides of a shaky chassis and cramped rear space, and added the typical Rolls-Royce traits of effortless luxury and pure class. It is, quite simply, peerless.